us now, we've got Raul Shah, CEO, Doc Shah Financial, taking a look at HIMS and HERS and its latest results. Raul, thank you so much for joining us this morning. So let's go through some of these numbers here. EPS, HIMS and HERS earned 20 cents a share. Revenue was $586 million. So they beat in the trailing quarter. It looks like there was a little bit of softness in terms of guidance, but what's your overall takeaways first?
Yeah, I think two things really come to mind. We saw a lot of operating leverage and we're seeing a lot of expanding growth. So I'll touch on guidance in just a second, but when you look at the income statement, we had 111% year-over-year growth in revenue, but operating income grew from 9.9 billion to 58 billion year over year. So 5 times as much operating profit as revenue growth. So you can actually see the operating leverage start to take place. This is what I saw years ago with MedMatch and just their marketing spend coming down. And their expanding runway is going to be really great. Now, in terms of their guidance, they did issue 2.35 billion for the whole year in terms of revenue. I find that very implausible because that would imply 0% sequential growth over quarter. Basically, they did 586 million in revenue this year. If you times that out by 4, you basically get that 2.35 billion midpoint. What I think is more likely is that they're going to sequentially grow every quarter. Last year, for perspective, they had a 20% cadence per quarter. If they even achieve half of that at 10%, I think you could see 2025 revenue at about $2.7 billion.
So, Raul, let me ask you this. What should we pay more attention to? Because, you've seen big moves on either side of the equation, double-digit moves when there was the risk of them losing the GLP-1s and a lack of clarity around, how much they could, offer the compound version of those. And then you saw recently at the end of April a big move to the plus side when Novo Nordisk said they were doing this deal where you would be able to have access to Wegovy on its platform. How much does it matter them having that access, Raul?
Yeah, I think that's a very important thing in general. If you look at their GLP-1 offerings, now they offer, Novo Nordisk's Wegovy on the platform. They've still got the personalized compounding version of semaglutide, and then they've also got oral GLP-1s and then liraglutide too. So they're very well insulated there, and that's going to contribute a lot of revenue. They projected, at least 725 million. I think it's going to be a lot more. But as I look out into all the other markets, they just announced that they're going to enter the hormonal therapy market. So you're looking at gargantuan size markets there with the TRT and menopause. So those markets are about 22, 23, 24 billion dollars currently. If HIMS captures even 5% of that market, that's about 50 cents EPS easily, maybe even $1.50 as you look out. So in terms of when you look at the overall picture, GLP-1s play a huge role, but there's also a lot of really, really big runways that they're going to have and big markets that they're going to be able to tap into.
All right, let's bring back in Raul Shah of Doc Shah Financial. All right, Raul, I want to get a final thought from you on HIMS and HERS. It sounds like you're pretty bullish on the company. What changes your view, if anything?
Yeah, that's a great question. If anything, this quarter really brought to light the operating leverage. That's what I took away from this quarter. The revenue growth has been there for a long time, but the actual profit is starting to materialize. And when I think about earnings per share, we could see well over $1 this year, which would be more than double last year's EPS. And then as you move forward, that growth should continue. I wouldn't be surprised if we have this conversation in 3, 5, 7, 10 years, and they're making $7 or $8 a share, and you can kind of peg whatever multiple you want to this stock, 20, 25, 30. This stock, I think, is worth multiples of what it's selling for right now. And it's a fundamentally sound company. They got 323 million cash on the balance sheet, 0 debt. And one last thing I'll leave viewers with is, Yemi Okupe is a great CFO. There are 62 million in deferred tax assets on the balance sheet. He can reverse those anytime he wants. He's probably going to do that in the third quarter. That's going to provide about a 6-cent boost to EPS. So a lot of really good catalysts here in this business.
Okay, so it's clearly about looking towards the future. But today, right now, shares off more than 8% in the pre-market. Thank you, Raul. That's Raul Shah, CEO, Doc Shah Financial.